Welcome in, everyone. We are going to be continuing our reading of Psycho-Cybernetics with the intentions of a mastermind book club. And if you are new here, you can always leave your questions in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. We are picking up on chapter number 9, and we got all the way to the failure mechanism, resentment. So I just want to brighten it up a little bit in here. All right. So number 6, resentment, is on page 141, for those of you wondering. And it reads, when the failure type personality looks for a scapegoat or excuse for his failure, he often blames society. The system, life, the breaks. He resents the success and happiness of others because it is proof to him that life is shortchanging him and he is being treated unfairly. Resentment is an attempt to make our own failure palatable by explaining it in terms of unfair treatment and justice. But as a slave for failure, resentment is a cure that is worse than the disease. It is a deadly poison to the spirit, makes happiness impossible, uses up tremendous energy which could go into accomplishment. A vicious cycle is often set up. The person who always carries a grievance and has a chip on his shoulder does not make the best companion or coworker. When coworkers do not warm up to him, or the boss attempts to point out deficiencies in his work, he has additional reasons for feeling resentful. Resentment is a wave that fails. Resentment is also a way of making us feel important. Many people get a perverse satisfaction from feeling wrong. The victim of injustice, the one who has been unfairly treated, is morally superior to those who cause the injustice. Welcome in, everyone. Resentment is also a way or an attempt to wipe out or eradicate a real or fancied wrong or injustice which has already happened. The resentful person is trying to prove his case before the court of life, so to speak. If he can feel resentful enough and thereby prove the injustice, some magical process will reward him by making not so the event or circumstances which caused the resentment. In this sense, resentment is a mental resistance to, a non-acceptance of, something which has already happened. The word itself comes from 2 Latin words, re, meaning back, and sentire, meaning to feel. Resentment is an emotional rehashing or refighting of some event in the past. You cannot win because you are attempting to do the impossible, change the past. Resentment creates an inferior self-image. Resentment, even when based upon real injustices and wrongs, is not the way to win. It soon becomes an emotional habit. Habitually feeling that you are a victim of injustice, you begin to picture yourself in the role of a victimized person. You carry around an inferior feeling, an inner feeling, which is looking for an external peg to hang itself on. It is then easy to see evidence of injustice or fancy you have been wrong in the most innocent remark or neutral circumstance. Habitual resentment invariably leads to self-pity, which is the worst possible emotional habit anyone can develop. When these habits have become firmly ensconced, a person does not feel right or natural when they are absent. They then literally begin to search for and look for injustices. Someone has said that such people feel good only when they are miserable. Emotional habits of resentment and self-pity also go with an ineffective, inferior self-image. You begin to picture yourself as a pitiful person, a victim, who was meant to be unhappy. The real cause of resentment. Remember that your resentment is not caused by other person's events or circumstances. It is caused by your own emotional response, your own reaction. You alone have power over this, and you can control it if you finally convince yourself that resentment and self-pity are not ways to happiness and success, but ways to defeat and unhappiness. As long as you harbor resentment, it is literally impossible for you to picture yourself as a self-reliant, independent, self-determining person who is the captain of his soul, the master of his fate. The resentful person turns over his reins to other people. They are allowed to dictate how he shall feel and how he shall act. He is wholly dependent upon other people, just as a beggar is. He makes unreasonable demands and claims upon other people. If everyone else should be dedicated to making you happy, you will be resentful when it doesn't work out that way. If you feel that other people owe you eternal gratitude, undying appreciation, or continual recognition of your superlative worth, you will feel resentment when these debts are not paid. If life owes you a living, you become resentful when it isn't forthcoming. Resentment is therefore inconsistent with creative goal striving. In creative goal striving, you are the actor, not the passive recipient. You set your goals. No one owes you anything. You go out after your own goals. You become responsible for your own success and happiness. Resentment doesn't fit into this picture, and because it doesn't, it is a failure mechanism. That's powerful. All right. I'm trying to consider. It's only one more, and then we'll just chat for 5 minutes. Okay, emptiness. Perhaps as you read this chapter, you thought of someone who had been successful in spite of frustration, misdirected aggressiveness, resentment, etc. But do not be too sure. Many people Many people acquire the outward symbols of success, but when they go to open the long sought for treasure chest, they find it empty. It is as if the money they have strained so hard to attain turns to counterfeit in their hands. Along the way, they lost the capacity to enjoy. And when you have lost the capacity to enjoy, no amount of wealth or anything else can bring success or happiness. These people win the nut of success, but when they crack it open, it is empty. A person who has the capacity to enjoy still alive within him finds the enjoyment in many ordinary and simple things in life. He also enjoys whatever success in a material way he has achieved. The person in whom the capacity is to enjoy is dead can find enjoyment in nothing. No goal is worth working for. Life is a terrible bore. Nothing is worthwhile. You can see these people by the hundreds night after night, knocking themselves out in nightclubs, trying to convince themselves they are enjoying it. They travel from place to place, become entangled in a whirl of parties, hoping to find enjoyment, always finding an empty shell. The truth is that joy is an accompaniment of creative function, of creative goal striving. It is impossible to win a fake success, but when you do, you are penalized with an empty joy. Life becomes worthwhile when you have worthwhile goals. Emptiness is a symptom that you are not living creatively. You either have no goal that is important enough to you, or you are not using your talents and efforts in striving toward an important goal. It is the person who has no purpose of his own, who pessimistically concludes life has no purpose. It is the person who has no goal worth working for who concludes life is not worthwhile. It is the person with no important job to do who complains there is nothing to do. The individual who is actively engaged in a struggle or in striving towards an important goal does not come up with pessimistic philosophies concerning the meaninglessness or the futility of life. Emptiness is not a way that wins. The failure mechanism is self-perpetuating unless we step in and break the vicious cycle. Emptiness, when once experienced, can become a way of avoiding effort, work, and responsibility. It becomes an excuse or a justification for non-creative living. It is, if all is vanity, if there is no new thing under the sun, if there is no joy to be found anywhere, why bother? Why try? If life is just a treadmill, if we work 8 hours a day so we can afford a house to sleep in, so we can sleep 8 hours to become rested for another day's work, why get excited about it? All these intellectual reasons vanish. However, and we do experience joy and satisfaction when once we get off the treadmill, stop going around and around in circles, and select some goal worth striving for and go after it. Emptiness and inadequate self-image go together. Emptiness may also be the symptom of an inadequate self-image. It is impossible to psychologically accept something that you feel does not belong to you or is not consistent with yourself. The person who holds an unworthy and undeserving self-image may hold his negative tendencies in check long enough to achieve a genuine success, then be unable to accept it psychologically and enjoy it. He may even feel guilty about it, as if he had stolen it. His negative self-image may even spur such a person on to achievement by the well-known principle of overcompensation. But I do not subscribe to the theory that one should be proud of his inferiority complex or thankful for it, because it sometimes leads to the external symbols of success. When success finally comes, such a person feels little sense of satisfaction or accomplishment. He is unable to take credit in his own mind for his accomplishments. To the world, he is a success. He himself still feels inferior, undeserving, almost as if he was a thief and had stolen the status symbols which he thought were so important. If my friends and associates really knew what a phony I am, he will say. This reaction is so common that psychiatrists refer to it as success syndrome. The man who feels guilty, insecure, and anxious when he realizes he had succeeded. This is the reason that success habits become a bad word. Real success never hurts anyone. Striving for goals which are important to you, not as status symbols, but because they are consistent with your own deep inner wants, is healthful. Striving for real success, for your success, through creative accomplishment, brings a deep inner satisfaction. Striving for phony success to please others brings a phony satisfaction. Glance at negatives, but focus on positives. Automobiles come equipped with negative indicators, placed directly in front of the driver to tell you when the battery is not charging, when the engine is becoming too hot, when the oil pressure is becoming too low, etc. To ignore these negatives might ruin your car. However, there is no need to become unduly upset if some negative signal flashes. You merely stop at a service station or a garage and take positive action to correct. A negative symbol does not mean the car is no good. All cars overheat at times. However, the driver of the automobile does not look at the control panel excessively and continuously. To do so might be disastrous. He must focus his gaze through the windshield, look where he is going, and keep his primary attention on his goal, where he wants to go. He merely glances at the negative indicators from time to time. When he does not fix upon them or dwell upon them. He quickly focuses his sight ahead of him again and concentrates on the positive goal of where he wants to go. How to use negative thinking. We should adopt a somewhat similar attitude about our own negative symptoms. I am a firm believer in negative thinking when used correctly. We need to be aware of negatives so that we can steer clear of them. A golfer needs to know where the bunkers and sand traps are, but he doesn't think continuously about the bunker, where he doesn't want to go. His mind glances at the bunker but dwells upon the green. Used correctly, this type of negative thinking can work for us to lead us to success if, number one, we are sensitive to the negative to the extent that it can alert us to danger, and number two, we recognize the negative for what it is, something undesirable, something we don't want, something that does not bring genuine happiness. And number three, we take immediate corrective action and substitute an opposite factor from the success mechanism. Such practice will in time create a sort of automatic reflex which becomes a part of our inner guidance system. Negative feedback will act as a sort of automatic control to help us steer clear of failure and guide us to success. That was a powerful chapter. I'm going to invite in the mastermind members so we could discuss today's reading. How are you ladies feeling today?
Peace, y'all. So good to see y'all today. I'm feeling good. How y'all feeling?
Grand Rising. I'm feeling good.
Oh my gosh. So when I was reading, the first thing that popped into my mind for me was when I was younger and finished high school, I was going to college. I was in school. I got my degree. I was working. I had money. I had bought my first car. I was going out. I was always shopping, buying clothes, always dressing nice, looking pretty. And the part when it said, like, you'll find the people that are empty in clubs, like, trying to feel like they're living a great life, but really they're not. I just automatically thought of that point in my life where, just it was not anything that I was going for. I was just living life. I was on the treadmill, just doing whatever that would distract me from the emptiness. And once I actually, basically what the author is saying, once I actually identified, all these negative things in my life and no longer focused on them and started putting my attention towards a goal, right? Just genuinely something that I wanted for myself, which is to help other people. That's when my life really changed, and I no longer put blame on others, right? How he was talking about the resentment, and I took 100% responsibility for how my life was going and how it is still going. And I want to get some insight on, like, if you ladies have experienced something similar in your life, and if so, would you be willing to share?
What? Yes, absolutely. I used to say, literally, y'all, I used to say that I was addicted to going out on Friday nights. I was always in the club. I was known to party all the time. I was always at the quote unquote best parties. I knew all the promoters. It was like, that was the life that I was living at that time. It was out of control. Like, I'm not even joking about how out of control it was. And so grateful to Source for keeping me safe, because I don't know what really was going on behind the scenes. You feel me? But it definitely does come with at that level of self-awareness. One, the willingness to be accountable, and to look at those negative indicators as something that actually are not contributing to you. How cute or healthy is it to drink yourself to a point where you're throwing up crazy the next day all the time? What are you doing to your body? What are you doing to your mind and spirit? So those are the kind of, reckoning conversations I was having with myself to get myself together. And now my idea of a beautiful Friday night is to get into my yoga practice, light me some incense, and, just vibe out.
I love that transition. That is a great transition. How about you, Dominique?
Yes, I can relate to you ladies because I was a heavy drinker back then. I wasn't really like a club person, but I was just like I needed like on weekends after work, I'll be like, you know what, it's time to turn up. That'll be my turn up. I'll say like drinking. I just love to drink and go by like cousins' houses and stuff. And then what made me aware of everything? They used to be like, girl, look at these videos. Look how you were yesterday, and I didn't remember anything. I was like, I wanted to remember that. Like I was enjoying the moment, but not really because I'm just drinking myself away. So that made me like, man, like I wish I remember that. Like I had a good time. And I never really remember things. So I was like, you know what? This is just not for me. And the sick part, like she said, just throwing up. I was like, man, I don't like this feeling. It was the feeling too. So I was just like, I gotta switch it on up. Like I'm not even remembering the good time. They got these videos showing me. I'm like, I look like I'm having a good time. But I don't remember any of it. So I just was like, that's not really a good time. So I just started to switch it up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go have a good time. But this time, just be aware, be sober. Like, it's going to be all right. Like, I don't have to drink. Like, I always felt like I needed to in order for me to express myself, I'll say. Because when I was, just to myself and sober and going around family, socializing, I wouldn't really socialize. I would just be there observing and just looking and just. So I felt like that was the way. But then I had to tell myself, like, you can still enjoy yourself. Because look what's happening to you when you do drink. You're not remembering, you're throwing up, you're feeling sick. So I had to just switch those, habits. And then I noticed a real difference. I'm like, I remember everything now. I'm feeling better. I was like, this is it. This is the way. So I just started to switch up. And then I'm a tourist, so I love being outside. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go to the park. This is what makes me happy. I started to just really do things that makes me truly happy instead of just trying to fit in or just doing things that I thought was okay and a way of expressing myself. So it's like I just started to get more aware and just started loving me more.
Yes, I definitely agree. Doing things that genuinely make you happy and doing things, I think you really have to discover what that is. And I feel like a lot of the times we discover it when we're very young. And sometimes, we're told, oh no, you have to like grow up. You can't keep doing those things. But if we just take the time to go back to that time in our life where we felt genuinely at peace, you will discover, something greater. Like for me personally, I always loved the arts. I always loved being around people and, just any opportunity to be creative. I was in every single type of creative club, in dance, in photography, in art, in singing, in theater. Every single type of creative activity, I was a part of it. And, I lost that part of me when I experienced that I had to grow up, right? And it did create a lot of resentment for me at one point in my life with my parents, because they were the ones that were telling me this. And like the author said, it's like fighting the past. And when I expressed that resentment and I brought up the fact that I was really hurt by the way things changed for me from being a young child to now turning into a young adult, it only caused more problems. So I definitely agree that resentment is never going to get you anywhere. And once I actually took wholehearted responsibility and just said, you know what, all these things needed to happen for me to become a better person, for me to grow and to recognize what I don't want in my life, then I was able to really restore that part of me that loved to be creative. And now I'm able to do so many things that allow me to share my creativity with others, and I feel so good. And I just feel like I'm actually working towards something bigger than myself just by doing those little things that I used to love as a kid. And I'm really interested, Joy. Like, while I was reading, I felt like you probably had something to say about like a human design interpretation. Am I spot on with that?
Girl, I'm always thinking about human design. Because for human design, And anything when it comes to just getting back to ourselves, right? It's not about becoming someone new or changing who we are. It's really about reconnecting to who we've always been. And we're closest to who we've always been from what you just said, like from our childhood experiences, because we were able to connect to things that brought us peace and express our creativity. So, the human design perspective is just about releasing the conditioned beliefs that bring on resentment, right? Because the only reason why we start to feel resentful and bitter and angry and frustrated is because we start to operate out of alignment with who we naturally are. Because we believe, we accept and we believe that we need to grow up and we need to, quote unquote, make a living by doing a job we don't really like so we can pay the bills. Like he said, go to work to pay for the house you live in, go home, sleep for 8 hours just to repeat going to work. Who wouldn't be resentful at a lifestyle like that? But if that's all we're conditioned to believe that there is in life, then that's what we're going to get into. You know what I mean? And shout out to you, Dominique. I didn't know you were a Taurus, girl. I am too. That's what's up. Happy
Yes.
solar return coming up, girl. So yeah, that's the human design perspective. I feel like just about releasing the conditioning that can lead to resentment. Every human design type has an emotional theme. And what the emotional theme is just basically the energy that you feel when you're operating out of alignment with yourself. So bitterness, resentment, anger, frustration, those are the emotional themes for the various human design types.
Right. I remember you talking about frustration with me.
Yeah.
And honestly, personally, I can recognize now what things bring me greater frustration than normal. Like just having that awareness. So thank you. And I wanted to ask you ladies if there were any last thoughts you wanted to share about today's reading or the chapter overall. I personally think these failure mechanisms that the author brings to our attention, right? The frustration, the aggressiveness, what else it is? The loneliness, obviously emptiness, resentment, I feel like I'm missing two. Let me just see really quick. Oh, insecurity. That was a big one. And uncertainty. I feel like all of these are feelings that I've personally battled with, and I feel like that we all will. And once you learn the cures to overcome these experiences, your life will just take off. And it can be so much simpler than we make it out to be. And it really just does start with, taking responsibility of everything in your life, not putting blame to other people, circumstances, or events, but just really understanding that you create everything in your life and you can have, be, or do anything that you desire. And, don't worry about how it's going to happen. It'll all work out as long as you focus on it, right? That's all the author is trying to get us to understand. Just have something you want for yourself, something you can work towards. And don't even worry about how it's going to happen. Just focus on it so much that you become obsessed with it. And this is what your internal guidance system will help you to achieve. So before we go, any final thoughts? No? Yeah, go ahead, Joy.
Yeah, I love what you just said about just focusing on like how especially with the analogy with the golfing, right? Focusing on the green, what you desire to see happen. And I also want to lift up that I know how it can feel and seem easier said than done. And I think that part of what can help us get used to being in that energy is focusing on nervous system regulation. Because if we're conditioned, to worry and failure and anxiety, it's not easy to focus on the possibilities because our nervous system is calibrated a different way and just isn't yet, strong enough to hold that higher energetic frequency. So getting into breath work and maybe even EFT tapping, other nervous system regulation practices that can support with that can really work well in tandem with shifting the mindset.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that reminder. Just taking it easy with yourself, being gracious, and knowing eventually it'll all get better. But thank you, ladies, so much for being here with me today. Go ahead, Dominique.
No, yes, I was gonna say I agree too as well. And patience too, that's what I'm learning too. To just be patient and just, stay focused. I agree with you ladies on everything you just said.
Thank you. And we appreciate each and every one of you being here and sharing this time with us. We're already all the way on chapter number 10, and that's it. We got, I think, 5 more chapters to go. So this has been an amazing time. We spent about 22 days reading this book together. So, it's been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see how we come out on the other end. So we'll see you guys next week.